Welcome to a reading by the author Vanessa Fletcher of The Fete of Death, which is book 1 of the Trott Cozy Mystery series. Chapter 1 is about to be read. But first of all, let's introduce Nethercott. The fictitious village of Nethercott is inspired by the village of Felpham in Sussex and a dash of Cornwall too. The actual layout of the village of Nethercott is a product of my own imagination. Nethercott has a good selection of shops and its own small beach. Tara Trott's cottage, Rose Cottage, on Peachtree Lane, the corner property, is flinted and thatched, as are most of the other cottages in the village. She's decorated her cottage in the shabby chic style. Chapter 1. It was a crisp autumnal morning in the village of Nethercott in Sussex. The birds were singing, happy to have made it through another bitterly cold night. Grass lawns were carpeted with morning dew, and a gentle cloud of fog clung to the fields leading down to Nethercott's small beach. Tara Trott filled her still half-asleep lungs with fresh air, then started violently coughing. She staggered into the picturesque flinted building of the post office, still spluttering. "How can I help you this morning?" asked the postmistress, Melanie Grinter, as she shuffled some papers self-consciously behind the heavy Victorian counter. Tara fished some letters out of her blue and white striped tote shopping bag. "I just need to post these," she said, handing 3 letters over. Melanie Grinter popped them into the postbag. Her hands were happiest when they had something to do to distract her overactive imagination. She always looked as though she expected the place to be raided by armed robbers at any moment, and Tara often wondered how she maintained that level of nervous energy day in, day out. Her husband blamed her nervous disposition on her hobbies. She was deeply superstitious and loved anything to do with ghosts and fortune-telling. She had recently started reading people's tea leaves. A quick glance at the teacups at the far end of the counter told Tara the twins were about to have their leaves read. Tara certainly wasn't keen on having hers read, especially not by an amateur dramatic like Melanie Grinter. "Cup of tea, dear?" Melanie asked when she noticed Tara looking at the upturned teacups on the counter, mistaking her unease for curiosity. "No thanks, I only drink coffee." "Now, ladies, let's see what the leaves are telling us today, shall we?" Melanie Grinter reached out for Molly's teacup first and took a deep intake of breath with her eyes closed to dramatise the reveal. Her face went from one of a woman in complete control of her senses to one who'd lost all of them. "Melanie, what have you seen?" asked Molly, her green eyes wide. "Death! I never thought I'd actually see, but there it is." She pointed a red-painted fingertip at a smear of tea leaves on the inside of Molly's teacup. Tara tutted. Melanie Grinter was on top form. "You've got a good imagination seeing that in clumps of wet tea leaves," sniggered Tara, peering into the cup and not seeing anything that convinced her that death was lurking somewhere among the tea leaves. "There's more. Sally's leaves show a dark and sinister presence and secrets. I've never read leaves quite like these before. I'd change the brand if I were you. It's obviously a faulty batch," said Tara, not in the mood for parlour games. The twins, with their white hair scraped back into tight buns and their mouths looking even thinner than usual, their high cheekbones flushed, didn't take their eyes off the hyperventilating Melanie Grinter. "You don't believe in it then?" asked Sally, twirling her topaz necklace in her bony fingers. "Nope, I stick to coffee. You don't get any of this nonsense with coffee granules, but I suppose it's a bit of excitement for you. You don't get out and about much, do you?" asked Tara, wanting to change the subject. "Now you mention it, there's a fete tomorrow over at Tarndale. They're having a cake and pie competition this time. It's probably safer, all things considered." Molly pointed to the colourful poster behind them. "Safer?" asked Tara. She teased her unruly long black curly hair up into a ponytail. "That village is nothing but bad luck for everyone who dares to go there," said Melanie, rubbing goosebumps off her forearms. "They hanged witches on that field, and it's been cursed ever since. I'll bet that's what the warning was about." "You don't think the leaves were warning us about Tarndale, do you? That's what we were talking about whilst we drank the tea," said Sally. "Tarndale's got a bad name, I'll give you that. But that's no reason to stay away, is it? The leaves could be warning us not to go, but if we went and won the baking contest, it'd be a feather in our caps, wouldn't it?" asked Molly, looking at Tara intently with emerald green eyes which hadn't faded with age. "Oh, you think I should enter the cake contest?" asked Tara, thinking that the twins were fans of her baking. "We want to enter. You've got a car, you could take us, and I suppose you could enter something yourself. And then we'd have 3 entries. That's good odds for us winning a prize," said Sally, looking straight through Tara. "I think you're all mad if you go there after the warning you've just had. Why did I put that wretched poster up? I thought it might cause trouble," said Melanie, hugging her ample bosom. "Even saying the name Tarndale is meant to bring bad luck. Never mind pinning a poster up about the place. If I'd known anyone from this village would be fool enough to want to go, I would have thrown it straight in the bin. I only put it up to give people something to have a gossip over whilst they're in here." "If we don't go, we'll never know if the leaves were right," said Sally. "I can't see why a cake contest would cause you apprehension, especially if you aren't going yourself. Even if the leaves are right, you won't be there to see your predictions unfold," laughed Tara. "So you'll take us then?" The twins glared at her in unison, and she wilted under the pressure of their gaze. "Well, let's see. I'd have to pick you up at 7 to give us plenty of time to load the cakes and get there. We don't have much time, though. We'd have to bake them today. It's a bit short notice, really." "We can bake the muffins in 25 minutes, that's no problem. But we use our own blend of infused herbs, and the secret's in the measurements and the marinating," said Sally. Molly winked back at her. "Why can't you leave Tarndale alone? I tell you, ladies, I've got one of my feelings. It's a powerful one too, like I've got fleas in my bones. It's a dire warning if ever there was one. Don't go to Tarndale. No good will come of it if you do go, mark my words," said Melanie in her haunting sing-song voice. "You can't decide what you can and can't do after having a cup of tea. I'm glad I don't drink the stuff, or I'd never get out of bed in the mornings. We will go, ladies, if only to show Melanie that the leaves are wrong. It's all in the interpretation of what you think you see in the leaves. Between us, we stand a very good chance of winning a prize in the contest," said Tara, lifting her chin. She knew she certainly had a good chance of winning, as she was capable of baking cakes to a very high standard. "You can't enter the cake contest," said Sally sharply. "Why not?" "Because we are. You'll have to enter the pie contest, or we'll be competing against each other. This is for neither cot's benefit as much as it is for disputing Melanie's tea reading skills," said Molly adamantly. "That's a good point. Okay, a pie it is. I don't bake that many pies though, so don't expect anything fancy," sighed Tara, wondering what kind of pie she could rustle up in a hurry that would stand a good chance of winning. "I'll pick you up at 7 sharp in the morning." Tara was put out that the twins had vetoed her plan to enter the cake contest. Pies weren't really her thing. The pastry always seemed to let her down, no matter how many famous chefs' cookery books she read or watched on TV. But any baking was good as long as Nancy Parker, Tara's best friend and the village's gossiping cleaning lady, didn't eat the pies before she could get them to the fete. When she left the post office, Melanie was still pleading with the twins not to go. The twins seemed to be relishing the drama their idea to go to Tarndale and their tea leaves were having on Melanie Grinter. Tara crossed the narrow cobbled street lined on either side with its flinted cottages and shops with their thatch roofs to the village fruit shop. She always loved the way the earthy smell of the vegetables clashed with the tangy aroma of the fruits in the shop. "Tara, how are you?" asked Mr. Patterson, the shop owner, wiping his soil-dusted hands on the front of his heavy-duty beige apron. "Okay, thanks. Any suggestions for a fruit pie?" Let me see. Apple and blackcurrant, or I've got some nice blackberries in." Tara looked at the rows of plump fruits heaped up in punnets. "Blackberries, I think, for a change. I need enough for 2 large pies. I need to make a spur just in case." "Feeling hungry, or is Nancy popping round?" he grinned, as he picked up a couple of punnets of ripe blackberries and placed them carefully inside a brown paper bag. The shop's door chimed behind Tara. "Pie competition," she said. Mr. Patterson's brow crinkled as he handed Tara her change. He looked as though he was going to say something, but had thought better of it. "Pie competition? You don't mean you're not going to Tarndale, are you? Surely not," asked an authoritative voice behind her. Professor Rummage was clutching his walking stick in his claw-like hand, looking his usual ruffled self. His face wore an expression of mummified horror. "We'll be back in time for tea," quipped Tara. "You hope." Professor Rummage was a well-known resident in Nethercott, a retired professor of engineering. He was known for being eccentric and had developed an obsession with the prevention of accidents and health and safety issues in the village since his wife died in a car accident. "Have you been talking to Melanie? Did she tell you about what she says she saw in the twins' tea leaves and her predictions of death and gloom?" chuckled Tara. "No, but she's never been wrong with her predictions. I'd listen to her if I were you," said Professor Rummage, thinking about his own tea reading the week before, which showed a fall. Sure enough, he'd slipped on a banana skin that same day walking down Bumble Lane. Since then, he'd been campaigning to ban banana eating on Nethercott streets. He'd gone to the fruit shop to badger Mr. Patterson again into not stocking bananas in his shop, as they were far too dangerous. "It's all made-up nonsense. The twins are really looking forward to going to the fete. It'll make a nice change for them. It'll put the colour back into their cheeks. They never leave the village. No one seems keen on taking them anywhere." "You're taking the twins on this ill-fated venture? Are you mad? Do you have any idea of the mischief those two can cause? Tarndale is downright sinister in itself, always has been, since the Tarndale witchcraft trials there centuries ago. They hanged a dozen women they believe were witches in that very field, Buttercup Meadow. It's been cursed ever since. You'll stay away from the place if you know what's good for you," said the professor, stamping his walking stick down in temper. "The witches are long gone, Professor. I don't know what all the fuss is about. It's a harmless cake contest at a village fete, and I don't think 2 little old ladies can cause much trouble either," sighed Tara. That was the trouble with small villages, she thought. Everyone knew what everyone else was doing, and if one of their own dared to stray into the next village, even for a few hours, they tended to get a bit uppity about it. The villagers of Nethercott were surprisingly territorial about their own. You'd be surprised. And after what happened the last time, I'm surprised they've gone and organised another. What happened the last time? Tara looked over at Mr. Patterson, who shrugged. He wasn't a man who liked to take sides in anything if it involved his customers, especially inside his shop. Fruit was the weapon of choice in heated rows in fruit shops. The last fete was a jam festival and they poisoned everyone, the whole ruddy lot of them, said Professor Rummage, remembering the incident all too well. Poisoned everyone? More or less. I was there. Luckily, I don't like jam. I was just there for a day out, but that was before I'd seen and felt first hand how sinister that field really is. Never again. Grim and unfriendly place it is. People were dropping like flies all around me. The St. John's ambulance volunteers were exhausted, hauling the stricken up and down that field. Even the brownies couldn't cope. There were a lot of tears and ambulances that day. It was a sad day for real jam-making enthusiasts, I tell you. No council within a 50-mile radius of the place has dared to hold another jam festival since, the professor nodded. Someone deliberately poisoned the jam? That's terrible. It was an accident. Some amateur decided to give jam making a go. They didn't realise they had to sterilise the jars first. Thought a drop of washing up liquid and a quick swill of water would do the trick. It didn't. It filled up the local hospital. Oh, how the crowds flocked to taste that idiot's jams. He had such exotic flavours, so many tantalising pots of jam to choose from. Of course, tasting a spoonful here and a spoonful there. Before they knew it, the poor buggers had consumed half a ruddy jar. We should have known, really, when he and his wife started asking people for their empty jam jars just before the festival. They didn't want to lose profits by buying new jars, so they thought they'd recycle other people's used jars. They were seen raiding bins for jars in the run-up to it. No wonder they poisoned folk, really. It was in all the papers. It was before your time, though, all that. Must be, 4 years ago now? I still don't see how an incident years ago has anything to do with us entering a cake competition. Well, I'll be entering the pie competition, twins orders. It's not the cakes or pies or even the competition that's the issue. It's the place. Don't say I didn't warn you when it goes bad ways, and it will do, as sure as eggs are eggs. And as for the twins, I'm surprised they want to go, unless it's to cause trouble. You'll have your hands full with them too, that's for sure. I can't see them being any trouble. No, you haven't known them as long as I have. You'll have to learn the hard way, won't you? He turned on his heel and stomped out of the fruit shop. Tara muttered goodbye to the unusually silent Mr. Patterson and wondered what she'd got herself into. Back home at her cosy whitewashed cottage with its thickly thatched roof and roaring open fire in the stone inglenook fireplace, Tara put her duck egg blue kettle on the stove for a much-needed cup of coffee. Tara had decorated her cottage in a vintage shabby chic style, and every room reflected that in the shades of white, distressed wood, and carefully chosen accessories and coordinated fabrics. Tara loved the village of Nethercott, but sometimes she felt the lack of privacy it offered was suffocating. Every day she wondered if one of the interfering villagers was going to find out she'd won £2.3 million on the lottery. That would be a day to remember when they did find out, and she had no doubt one of them would one day. She'd moved to the pretty Sussex village of Nethercott to be among people who knew nothing about her, but every day she felt they were getting close to knowing everything about her, and that could prove fatal for Tara Trott. Her ex-boyfriend, Nathan Proctor, had been recently released from jail, and it was Tara's testimony that had put him there. He'd vowed to kill her if he ever found her. Luckily, she had won the lottery money just before he was released. She bought the pretty cottage in Sussex and had lain low ever since. Just as the kettle boiled, the doorbell rang. Nancy, how do you do it? Every time that kettle boils, you turn up. I don't need to text or ring you to get hold of you. I just need to boil the kettle, said Tara. Nancy Parker beamed from ear to ear, shrugged her coat off, and skipped over to the fire blazing fiercely in the Inglenook fireplace, rubbing her hands over the flickering flames. It was the smell of the cakes that brought me here. What have you baked today? I made some banana and cream muffins last night. I suppose you've heard all about the doomsday fete I'm going to with the twins tomorrow. No, what's that? Sounds exciting. It's only a village fete over at Tarndale. The twins want to enter a cake competition. They've decided I'm entering the pie competition. But to hear Professor Rummage and Melanie Grinter carry on, you'd think we were going to a murderous tea party. Ah, that'll be the jam incident. Yes, but this is about cakes and pies. They've got long memories in this village. Quite a lot of our villagers were poisoned that day, including me. No one died by some miracle, but it was a close call for a few people. The couple who made all that jam moved away the weekend after. No one's seen or heard from them since. The husband was always starting up new business ventures on a shoestring. None of them ever worked out, but the jam-making business was the first one that almost killed the customers. The jam did taste amazing though, and they were offering free tasting of each flavour. It was the most popular stall there. They had flavours like banana and coconut, strawberry and marshmallow. Yeah, they certainly tasted amazing, but an hour or so later you ended up at the hospital. It was scary seeing everyone collapse all around you and then start with symptoms yourself. I can imagine. Can I come with you tomorrow? I might have bad memories of the place, but they've got a fantastic swimming pool in Tarndale. I'll go for a swim and you three can tout your wares. Just don't poison anyone, said Nancy, her stomach grumbling in anticipation of the muffins. Everyone else thinks it's a bad idea and we shouldn't go, but I've promised to take the twins and they're excited about going. I've just bought the ingredients for the pie, and if nothing else, it's a chance to prove Melanie Grinter's gift for reading tea leaves is all pie in the sky, said Tara, walking into the York stone-floored white kitchen to unpack the blackberries. They don't like to see anyone else having a good time, or at least they do, as long as they're around to see it. They don't like villagers leaving the village, that's a fact. Once Nancy had eaten 3 banana and cream muffins, she left, claiming that she wouldn't be able to eat much of her tea that night. Tara began baking the blackberry pies, thinking that village life wasn't exactly how she had envisioned it. She would have had more privacy in a house slap bang in the middle of London, where no one knew her neighbours' names, she thought ruefully. Once the pies were baked and boasted melt in the mouth golden crusts, which had eluded her for years in her battles with pastry, she proudly took them out of the oven and left them to cool on the white marble-topped kitchen table. On her way up to bed that night, she wondered what could possibly go wrong at a harmless village fete. Nothing, she hoped, but there was an unmistakable ice-cold feeling deep in the pit of her stomach that wouldn't go away. It niggled constantly at her for attention, like a mouse gnawing at a piece of cheese. It had done since Melanie Grinter had said she'd seen death in the twins' tea leaves. Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, though, she told herself, closing her bedroom curtains as a rumble of thunder echoed round her cottage defiantly.